Good evening to one and all. I'd like this evening, to report to the people of Barbados that the key heads of departments and agencies and ministries have been meeting this evening since 5:30 to be able to prepare in the event of there being an issue with us having to go under tropical storm or hurricane warning later this week, given the tremendous activity in the Atlantic Ocean. Before we go any further, I'd like to ask the head of the Met Office, Ms. Sonia Nurse, to please address us.
Thank you, PM. This afternoon, I'm here to give you a brief update on the position of Tropical Storm Isaac. At 5 p.m., it was located at 14.5 degrees north, 40.3 degrees west, or about 1,290 miles or 2,200 kilometers east of Barbados. And the system continues to move towards the west. It has strengthened during the last few hours, and further strengthening is anticipated. The system is likely to become a hurricane during the course of tonight into early tomorrow, but on the projected track, it should remain well to our north, and the center should pass to our north around Wednesday night into early Thursday morning. And the Met Office will continue to monitor the progress of the system.
Good evening. On receiving the advice from the Barbados Meteorological Services with respect to Tropical Storm Isaac, the Department of Emergency Management, in accordance with our standard operating procedures, we continue to monitor the progress of the system. We would have also indicated to the relevant agencies of the National Emergency Management System to activate their own internal procedures as we continue to monitor the progress of Tropical Storm Isaac, which, as per from the advice of the Barbados Met Services, may develop into a hurricane, and it may impact the islands of the Lesser Antilles Wednesday into Thursday morning. I would wish to encourage the public to activate their various disaster plans and be very precautious as it relates to the impending system. We request persons to do their cleanups around their various homes, ensure that they have the necessary supplies to take them through the system, and of course constantly monitor for any updates from the authorities.
Good evening. The Royal Barbados Police Force, as a leading security agent in dealing with this upcoming likely possible event, we reviewed our plans. We rehearsed with our partners, the Barbados Defense Force, and we are all ready and very capable of dealing with any fallout that might occur should this impending system reach our shores. Our members are keen to assist Barbadians wherever possible, and we will ensure that our country is safe and secure for people who might be impacted.
Thank you very much. I would simply like to reinforce the message from the DEM in particular, that in advance of knowing whether we are likely to be hit or not, there is sufficient concern that would cause not just members of government to plan, but also every household in Barbados to plan. I wish I could say that the government of Barbados was in a position to be able to guarantee that every canal, every drain, every well, everything has been done. We are not. We are trying to grapple with a situation that has been inherited, that is very difficult. The majority of equipment at the Ministry of Public Works is not functional. We have provided funding, but that procurement process is still under way, and therefore the equipment has not been received. To the extent that we can, therefore, we will be collaborating with the private sector. The Ministry of Public Works tomorrow will meet with the private sector to see where we can get additional generator capacity, and I'm calling on all members of the private sector to work with the government agencies as necessary. Similarly, we recognize that there are pieces of heavy equipment that the Ministry of Public Works will also need to have access to. The Drainage Department has already been doing some good work. I think they've finished Sailor Gully and the Wim, Constitution River. They're now trying to go to Seaview and hope to finish that by Tuesday, Wednesday. But in order for us to be able to meet and to deal with some other critical areas, because realistically, even if the hurricane does not hit us, we still have to be wary of the level of flooding that might take place. And we're trying to address the 10 most likely areas that may be affected by flooding ahead of time. Regrettably, the pieces of equipment, pumps and generators that are absent from the country, and we're trying to see what we can get in ahead of time. But in any event, to place this country on a good footing for any future systems as we go forward, and we pray that we can get through this season without it. I know that we like to say that God is a Bajan, and I believe that God is a Bajan, but we also have to prepare, because God helps those who help themselves, and we need to help ourselves, and we need to make sure that we learn from the lessons of the past. I make it very clear that when Ivan hit, Ivan was coming for Barbados, and it was only at the last minute that Ivan veered and went to Grenada. Barbadians cannot take anything for granted. And for those of us who know what it is to have lived in a jurisdiction immediately after a hurricane, believe you me, we need to prepare. And it's not about panicking anybody, it's just about doing the basics. Those people who are living alone, I'd like to make sure that you reach out and you know whether it is family, whether it is a neighbor, whether it is the church in your community, that there is someone with whom you touch base such that if a hurricane warning is eventually given by the Met Office, that they know they're to come to you and you know you are to have access to them. Similarly, we've heard just now about persons cleaning up around the house in the same way that the government is using the next 48 to 72 hours to clean the most flood-prone areas. We've done some already, and hence, therefore, we only have to complete the rest. We would like people to do the same in their communities, around their properties, in their gaps. Similarly, we know that the Sanitation Services Authority does not have the requisite number of trucks. We know that we're not there even with the use of the private sector. And I'd like to urge all right-thinking Barbadians who have the capacity so to do, to help us, and to help us move some of this debris. I'm told that the stuff will go to Mangrove at the SBRC center, but that equally I've asked that the GIS also from tomorrow morning start to alert where the heavier pieces of equipment can also go, for those people who can help us take responsibility for clearing their areas. It's not something that we're asking people to do every week or every month, but as I keep saying to the country, many hands make light work. Similarly, we would ask that where the private sector feels that they have access to equipment and other things that they feel may be of support to government in the next 24 to 48 hours that they're not using, that they also let us know through the Ministry of Public Works or through the district, the DEM, Department of Emergency Management, so that we can equally prepare. The list of shelters, the Ministry of Education has indicated that we have 21 Category 1 shelters. There are only 2 parishes apparently that do not have Category 1 shelters, and I've asked the Ministry of Public Works and the Ministry of Education to advise us by midday tomorrow how those 2 parishes, St. Andrew and St. Joseph, can be put in a position of readiness to have shelters there. In the case of St. Joseph, we want to look at the Eric Holder complex, and in the case of St. Andrew, we need to see what can be done to beef up either the Costa Edwards Primary School or to look at a church within the parish of St. Andrew that can easily transition if there is just minimal shoring up work to do to allow us to be able to keep persons in parish as much as possible. The Department of Emergency Management has already pre-positioned, I believe, 6 boxes,
6 storage bins.
6 storage bins. So speak, get the right language. 6 storage bins that has a significant amount of equipment in the event of the worst. We all hope, believe you me, that we do not get the worst, but we have to plan for it and hope for the best. I'm satisfied that we're not in the best position that we would like to be, but we're in a good enough position to rally through. And to that extent, with the people of Barbados working with the members of the government, I hope that if the worst does happen, we're in a position to avert it. The irony is that I am supposed to be opening the Global Climate Change Conference on Thursday morning and being the first speaker, and that I'm supposed to be meeting with the head of the United Nations Environmental Programme and the head of the UN Framework for Climate Change on Wednesday. These things may have to be deferred or delayed depending on what the head of the Meteorological Service advises, but that is life, and our responsibility is here and to do the work to make Barbados safe, to keep Barbados safe, and to hope that the worst does not happen. In the event that it looks as though it is unlikely to come, then we have to just guard against the flooding and gusts that may still come our way. I've been around long enough to know that even when hurricanes have bypassed us, we've had significant gusts that have affected some districts in the country, and therefore we need to be conscious that you might have some renegade gusts associated with Isaac. I'm told that Helene at the moment does not look as though it will come near us, and suffice it to say that Barbadians should stay tuned to their radios, the television, and to social media over the course of the next 3 days, because we've seen what hurricanes have done to our brothers and sisters in the region. We have been lucky. Since Hurricane Janet, we've not had any major damage, and we don't want to, but we cannot take it for granted. I'd like to thank the public officers who have come out here this evening. We are fortunate to have in our public service men and women of commitment who have, in spite of it being a Sunday evening, have come out to make sure that the country will be in as best a shape as we can put it, given the notice that we have with respect to these systems. So without further, the last thing I'd like to say is that I believe that there were some issues in the past about protocols for shutdown and protocols for all clear. The DEM will be outlining to the country what will be the case through GIS in the next 24 hours, but suffice it to say that if we are put under warning, the all clear will come either through the voice of the Minister of Home Affairs or the Commissioner of Police, and the country should be made aware of that, given the fact that on the last occasion a number of people purported to offer all clears in circumstances where none was given, and in circumstances where people's lives can be put at risk if they don't follow the appropriate protocols with respect to that. It's the one line in the sand that we will ensure. With respect to the shutdown, we are very conscious that the key people who have to get home, that the Transport Board, in spite of its limited bus service, as well as the privately owned PSVs, will be pressed into action to be able to help persons get home depending on the time. It is too early for us now to speak other than in general terms, because we really do have to await the word of the Met Office, and in any event, this is likely to be a nighttime system, in which case the shutdown should not affect the normal operational hours of business, but we don't know. The only thing we can tell Barbadians is stay tuned to your radios, stay tuned to your television, stay tuned to social media, and recognize that, regrettably, this is what comes with the glory that we have of living on an island. We enjoy the many benefits of island life, but the truth is we are also on the front line of climate change, and climate change, regrettably, in recent years has meant for us the risk to these catastrophic and dangerous hurricanes as we have seen in the region affecting our brothers and sisters. I would ask simply that we prepare ourselves, we be ready, be our brothers and sisters' keeper, and that we in particular look after the ones and the people in our communities who live alone. And finally, that as usual, as a Christian and religious country, not just Christian alone, but as a religious country, a faith-based country, that we keep the country's well-being and the safety of our people in our prayers. But we will work and do our best as a government to prepare for any eventuality. Thank you.